Hi, my name is Jin, as you can see, and I'll be demonstrating our assignment 2. So I'll start by demonstrating each button. So here's PB1, PB2, PB3, RA2, RB4, RA4 respectively. So I'll start by pressing the first button, PB1. This should go for about half a second. You can see. Here's PB2, which should go for about 1 second intervals. And now I'll press PB3, which should go for about 4 second intervals, so this might take a while. Okay, so now I will demonstrate PB1 and PB2 being pressed at the same time, which was a requirement. So this should go for about intervals of 1 millisecond. So as you can see, it's strobing like 1 millisecond. And the requirement was for PB1 and PB2 only to allow for 1 millisecond intervals. So when we press PB2 and PB3, or when we press all 3 buttons, it should not flash. So I'll start by pressing PB2 and PB3. So as you can see, it's not doing anything. And I'll press 3 buttons. And it is not doing anything there, so that's good. And now I will talk about our prescaler, frequency, and PR2 that we had to use. So for the first 3 requirements, where each button is pressed individually for 0.5 seconds, 1 second, and 4 seconds respectively, they all had prescaler value of 256, a frequency of 500, which allows it so that PB1, when it's pressed, it has a PR2 value of 488, a PR2 value for when PB2 is pressed to have 976, and when PB3 is pressed, the PR2 is 3906. And this is calculated in our code in the delay ms function, which is inside the time delay function, which is provided. And for when we press PB1 and PB2 together, this is a special case where we had to change some numbers. So our frequency in this one is 32, our prescaler is 1, which yields a value of PR2 equaling 16. So these values allow us to essentially run our timer for the desired time using the equation provided in the lectures. And now I will talk about the IO check functions. So when you run main, before the while begins, it'll do the initialization. That function is called IO init. IO init is in the file ios.c. And also in the file ios.c is IO check. IO check is basically all our while conditions and if conditions that check when each button is being pressed or when 2 or more buttons are being pressed. So all that goes in IO check, which is in ios.c. IO init just initializes all our pins to be inputs or outputs respectively. And so yeah, so when you're in IO check, it will check each button if they're pressed or not. If they are pressed, it will go into delay ms with the provided or desired delay time, which then uses, which that is in time delay. Then that uses new clock, which is in clock change.c.